Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your friends and family so we can keep bringing you the stories that matter. Today's story is one that's sending shockwaves across borders, one that's stirring emotions and igniting conversations both in the streets and online. It's the tale of a message that has traveled from South Africa straight into the heart of Zimbabwe's political corridors, a message that says, in no uncertain terms, enough is enough. For years, South Africa has been the destination for millions of Zimbabweans fleeing economic collapse, political repression, and a deteriorating quality of life back home. The open borders, the shared history, and the promise of better opportunities have turned cities like Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban into havens for desperate people seeking a chance at survival. But over time, the cracks have become too big to ignore. South Africans, struggling with their own unemployment crisis, service delivery failures, and a strained economy, are now openly voicing their frustrations, not just at the presence of so many Zimbabwean nationals, but at the Zimbabwean leadership whose failures have created this never-ending exodus. In recent weeks, demonstrations, public meetings, and online campaigns have made it clear, ordinary South Africans are fed up with the idea of constantly carrying the consequences of another nation's governance collapse. The chants have been loud and unapologetic, with placards bearing words like "Fix your country" and "We are not your refugee camp." These aren't just angry slogans, they're desperate cries for accountability aimed squarely at Harare. People are saying that it's time Zimbabwe's leaders stop blaming sanctions, stop hiding behind political excuses, and start taking real responsibility for rebuilding their own nation. This message hasn't just been whispered in activist circles, it's been amplified by community leaders, business owners, and even local politicians. In border towns like Messina, where the strain is felt most directly, residents speak of hospitals overflowing, schools stretched to breaking point, and job opportunities disappearing. They say the problem isn't the ordinary Zimbabwean people, most of whom are hard-working and simply trying to survive, but the political elite in Zimbabwe who continue to live lavishly while their citizens scatter across the region. In Johannesburg's central business district, you'll hear taxi drivers telling reporters that the influx of desperate workers is driving down wages and creating unnecessary tensions between locals and migrants. Shop owners complain about the lack of fair regulation in informal trading. Even labor unions, which have historically fought for immigrant rights, are now quietly admitting that there's a crisis of sustainability that cannot be ignored. And at the root of all these conversations is one recurring sentiment: Zimbabwe's leadership needs to act, and act fast, because South Africa is no longer willing to silently absorb the consequences. Social media has played a massive role in fueling this new wave of outspoken frustration. Videos have gone viral of South Africans directly addressing Zimbabwean officials, warning them that the patience of their neighbors has run out. Hashtags calling for change in Zimbabwe have been trending in South African circles, drawing the attention of international observers. Some South Africans have even begun tagging Zimbabwean government accounts, demanding answers on what is being done to stop the country's freefall. It's not just activists making noise, there's a strong political undertone to all this. With South Africa heading into tense political cycles of its own, immigration has become a hot-button issue. Parties like the Patriotic Alliance, Action SA, and others have made border control and deportation central talking points. While the ANC government maintains that it will continue to honor international refugee agreements, the growing pressure from ordinary citizens is becoming impossible to ignore. Every protest, every trending hashtag, and every heated community meeting adds to the political weight bearing down on Pretoria, which, in turn, increases the urgency for Harare to finally get its house in order. What's striking about this current wave of anger is how direct it is. South Africans are not mincing words. They are calling out Zimbabwean leaders by name, referencing decades of mismanagement, corruption, and brutal repression that have crippled the once thriving nation. They point to the irony of Zimbabwe's leaders attending international summits, flying in private jets, and speaking of economic revival, while millions of their citizens are scattered across foreign lands doing menial jobs just to survive. In some cases, the message has been even more symbolic. During recent protests, South African demonstrators carried mock suitcases labeled "Return to Sender," a cheeky yet pointed jab suggesting it's time for Zimbabweans to go back home, not out of hatred for the people, but as a push to force their leaders to face the reality they've avoided for far too long. For many, this is not about xenophobia but about drawing a line in the sand, signaling that the region cannot continue to carry Zimbabwe's burdens indefinitely. Of course, Zimbabwean officials have responded with their usual defensive tone, citing sanctions, historical injustices, and external interference as the main culprits. But South Africans aren't buying it anymore. They've heard these excuses for over 2 decades, and yet the situation only seems to worsen. The message now is clear: if the Zimbabwean government does not take meaningful steps to fix its economy, create jobs, and restore democratic freedoms, then the tide of regional solidarity that once supported them will turn into a tide of regional resistance. What happens next will be telling. Will Zimbabwe's leaders finally confront the deep rot within their systems and commit to rebuilding their nation? Or will they continue to dismiss the calls from across the Limpopo as mere noise? What's undeniable is that the people of South Africa have drawn their boundary. They are saying enough is enough, and this time, it's not just a murmur, it's a roar loud enough to echo through the streets of Harare, into the offices of ministers, and across the grand halls where the ruling elite plot their political futures. Whether Zimbabwe's leaders choose to listen or not, the truth is out: the patience of their neighbors is wearing thin, and the world is watching to see if they'll rise to the challenge or continue on the same destructive path. One thing is certain: the people have spoken, and their message is loud, clear, and impossible to ignore.